Alright, so today we're going to be making poached salmon. So to do that, we need to make a court bouillon, which is basically just a vegetable stock that has salt in it and also some kind of acid, like white wine is very traditional, but I'm going to be using white wine vinegar. So yeah, you just make a stock and then add the wine or the vinegar and the salt, and then you poach your salmon in it. So first things first, let's make the stock. As usual, mirepoix, pretty important in everything. This time I'm going to be adding a little bit of fennel. Fennel and fish go very, very well together, especially fennel and sea bass. Delicious. And then we're going to add the sachet components, as always. I do not have any thyme, unfortunately. I forgot to pick some up, but we do have everything else: cracked black peppercorns, garlic, bay leaf, and parsley. So just cut this up. You're going to want to cut it maybe a little bit smaller than normal, so that you get like maximum flavor or whatever. But just take it. This time I'm going to more or less like dice the onion, maybe not so small, but fairly small. Just gonna... I really should start using a bench scraper. I'm terrible about that. And I'm going to cut these carrots up fairly small again, like the onion. Oh man, I remember back a couple of years ago I worked at this place in the downtown area of where I live, where I would have to cut like literally 50 pounds of carrots a day and then roast it all when I worked on the salad station. It was intense some days, but it was a lot of fun. I kind of miss it. Celery, let's split this in half. Just like that. I'm not a big fan of celery, so I don't put very much in there, but it is a very important part. I'm going to cut off the fronds. You can totally use them and totally save them. These are great as like a garnish. They look a little bit like dill, and that has caused me a little bit of trouble back in school. Oh man. They're delicious. They're great in salads, and they're great in as a garnish. So, but I'm not going to be using these today. So into there, and then. Whoop. Also, fairly small, but not like it doesn't have to be like too small. Oh, and I made sure that all the vegetables were washed. That's pretty important. Always wash your vegetables. You don't know what's on them. When they're being shipped, there's often, a little bit of stuff going on in the background. They might get like tossed around, thrown like on the ground. Just always wash your vegetables, and then they're always clean. You don't have to worry about it. Nothing. Just scrub them a little bit in the sink. Good. And then we'll add the sachet components. There we go. So now we just fill it with water and then make a nice vegetable stock out of it. Sweet. So now we just let this simmer for about an hour or so, In an hour, we'll strain it and add the vinegar and the salt, and then we will poach the salmon in it. So, right, see you then. Sweet. So now, this has been simmering for about 2 episodes of The Office, so it is time to strain it. So now we basically have a like a stock, vegetable stock. So it is time to add a good amount of vinegar. So just, you're gonna need a lot. Some of it will cook away. That's probably good. And salt. You want a fair amount of salt because this broth is, or this stock is going to be the only thing that's going to season our salmon. We don't salt it or anything before. So all the flavor and all the seasoning comes from this. And at this point, since I added the vinegar and the salt, it is called a court bouillon. I'm going to show you how to deep poach salmon with this. Sweet, so let us poach the salmon now. I'm just heating keep making sure the court bouillon is pretty hot. You want it between 165 and 185. You do not want it boiling. See this right here? This is about the temperature that you want. You see how it's just barely simmering? So now I'm going to turn this down to medium, about medium, and just let it try to keep its temperature. So it is very important to taste this. You want to taste it and make sure that, you know, the seasoning is correct, the vinegar. You want it to be kind of slightly acidic. You want to be able to taste the vinegar or taste the wine if you use wine, but you don't want it to overpower it. All right, the vinegar is really good. You can tell that it's acidic. The salt, I need a little bit more. So if this was like a soup minus the vinegar, the seasoning would be correct, but you want this to be saltier. You want this to be, you want it to kind of like burn the back of your mouth a little bit when you taste it. So you're gonna want to put in a lot of salt, but you don't want it too salty. If it tastes like you're drinking ocean water, you've gone too far. Yes, see? All right. I don't know if you saw right before I started stirring, but there were little bubbles coming up in the center. There's little bubbles forming there. This is the perfect temperature to drop in our salmon. It's we don't want it to be too cold, otherwise it'll never cook, and we don't want it to get too hot, otherwise it will destroy the salmon, and you don't want that. You want this to be nice and flaky and moist, and it's delicious. I have here wild salmon. I filleted it the other day, and these are some of the fillets that I got out of it. Is that what they're called? I forget. I learned this in my fish class. I should really know what these individual portions are called. But I'm going to do one right now for the deep poaching, and one right now, and one later, sorry, for a quick saute, and that will be a different video. So you just need to drop this in. There we go. See, it immediately starts cooking. The reason why it's called deep poaching is you see how the fish is completely submerged in the court bouillon? That is called deep poaching. It's like deep frying, but with stock. When you deep fry, you need enough oil that the object or whatever you're deep frying can be completely submerged. With deep poaching, you want the same way. Same with shallow poaching or shallow frying. You only want the liquid to come up about halfway. And it suits different things, just like how shallow frying, and you would shallow fry different stuff than you would deep fry. You shallow fry different foods than you deep fry. And you shallow poach different things than you deep poach. Words are hard. So this will take about 5 to 15 minutes. The only way to tell is to test. And I'll show you how to test. You want it to like pull apart. You want it to be flaky, but you don't want it to be overcooked. When it's overcooked, it gets kind of dry. even when it's like this, it'll still get dry. The safe cooking temperature is 145, but if you're not afraid of that, if your salmon's good, I recommend about 130. That'll give you a medium rare salmon. Oh yeah. So fish, fish have, you know how you can cook a steak rare, medium, mid-well. You can cook fish the same exact way. And actually, when I worked at this resort in Pennsylvania, we served fish like that. It was kind of interesting to me. It was the first time I'd ever encountered it. But when I was done, I was really glad that I had learned it, because it turned, you know, ordinary fish into something that you could really transform. It like opened my eyes a little bit to treating fish a little bit more like how you treat meat. So, there's a great book about this. I think it's called The Whole Fish by Josh Nyland. I have to double check that. But it's a great book. I highly recommend it if you are interested in fish. So I'm gonna let this poach. You see how these bubbles are coming up? That means it's too hot. You want it to be pretty still. So I'm turning this down to about medium low. I'm just gonna let it go like this. I will check back in a little bit. Sweet, so it's been about 5 minutes. It is not done, very important to know. But it may look like it's done. As you can see, be careful. It's still quite like firm, and it's not flaky yet. When it's done, this will start to flake off a little bit. So just the fact that I can like pick this up like this is telling me that it's not done yet. And if you are very concerned about it, you can totally temp it. It's a great way to test it. Another great way to test it is to take a cake tester and slide it through the side of the salmon. You can do this with any fish, and you will feel a difference when you push it through an uncooked part of the salmon and the cooked part of the salmon. So it'll go through little resistance, and then it'll hit like a spot, and it'll just stop. But if it's completely cooked all the way through, it won't hit that spot. Sweet. So it has been about 5 or 6 minutes, probably closer to 6, and it is time to test it. So now it might actually be done. So let us find out. It's starting to pull apart right here. Oh, it's starting to pull apart right over here and right down here. And here it is. It's almost there. Sweet, so it is probably right about done. Got my plate here already. Yeah, definitely. So now, get on the plate. This is completely cooked. It is nice and seasoned. I just tasted it. It's really good. This thing that fell off. So let us, finish it up with like a little bit of hollandaise. I didn't make any sides for it this time, but that's okay. This is delicious all by itself. Our salmon is done cooking, so now the only thing left to do is to just spread the hollandaise on it. Let's see, hollandaise is a little stiff, so let's add a small amount of warm water. Let's bring it back to consistency, and spoon it over. Just like that. And enjoy. It's really good. So thank you. I hope you enjoyed. Yeah, please do try this. It's really good. So thank you. See you later.